Our last storyteller is someone I have known since college. I won't tell you how long ago that was, because that will embarrass the both of us. But since then, Chastity Pratt has become synonymous, at least to me, in this city, with education. This is somebody who has spent more time than anyone I know writing about and thinking about telling stories about our schools and the kids in our schools and the teachers in our schools and all of the drama and politics and things that go along with it. And over the years, I feel like I've come to be sort of intimately familiar with all of the things that go on in education in the city because of Chastity. There are lots of other people who've written about education here or there. I covered education in the city 25 years ago for a very short time. But there's nobody else I can think of who I identify more strongly with that story and the hope about it, the frustration about it, the anger that we all sometimes have. And so I really wanted to invite her to tell you a story about her and sort of how she comes to tell all of these stories, how she comes to all of this information and all of this heartbreak and hope and drama around our schools. So our last storyteller is Chastity Pratt.
It's 2017, and I'm returning to Detroit from covering a news story in Mexico. We land at Metro Airport, and I'm walking into the airport, and I see in one of the restaurants a television screen, and it's on, and the president is there calling me, Dia, fake news. I feel like a soldier returning to no ticker tape parade after a war, because you know what, some people really don't understand that the typical news reporter encounters danger to report the news. I remember the first time I almost died reporting the news. I was 22 years old. It's 1996, and I'm a cub reporter at the newspaper in Portland, Oregon. And I'm covering a weather story. Storm is causing a mudslide, and I'm in the backyard of a home that's sliding off a mountain. In the backyard, I dropped my cell phone. I reached down in between the branches, and I hear zit, 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 zit. Live wire. I almost touched a live wire. I pick up my cell phone, I tiptoe up out of there, and thinking to myself, you don't get paid enough for this. You have your whole life ahead of you, Chaz. Why are you risking your life to report the news? A few years later, I am a reporter at Newsday in New York. It's 2001, and the World Trade Center attack happens. It's all hands on deck. This is the biggest news story of a generation, and I'm assigned to victims' families. I have to go up to people who are sad, angry, confused, whose relatives' bodies have been disintegrated in a terrorist attack. People who don't know whether or not it's their relative's finger that was found on that balcony in Battery Park that day. They are sad and angry and confused, and I have to put my microphone in their face and say, how does this tragedy make you feel? Now, if that wasn't dangerous enough, the closer I got to ground zero, to where the rubble was still smoking, the more smoke you see, and you see this debris floating in the air like pollen. And the people who are in the rubble, the first responders who are going through the rubble, they have face masks on. But reporters, I don't have a face mask. And at this time, I am the mother to an infant son, Khalil, and I'm thinking to myself again, Chas, why are you putting yourself in danger to report the news? Why are you doing this? Well, a few years after that, I'm in Detroit at the Detroit Free Press covering the Detroit schools. It's about, 2007, 2008, and the schools need books and supplies. And one of my sources tells me, hey, you know those abandoned schools? There's plenty of stuff in them, a lot of stuff. Open schools got nothing, closed schools got a lot of stuff. I'm like, nah, let me find out. So I go into a lot of abandoned schools. I go in, and I see shelves and shelves and boxes of books. And you got open schools where kids need books? Oh, wait a minute, hold on. I wrote a story. And the next day, I get a phone call. Chastity, this is Nate Taylor, Facilities Chief for Detroit Public Schools. You got us. You got us. Good story, good story. I'm like, yeah, I know, I got y'all. He said, yeah, but when you were in those schools, did you see all the floors that were ripped out? Mm-hmm. The walls, yeah, the pipes, yeah, them thieves are taking you off everything y'all got. He's like, yeah. And when they ripped those walls out, they release friable asbestos. You might not want to go back into those schools again. So at this point, I'm the mother to Khalil and Nia, another baby. And again, I'm asking myself, Chas, why are you putting your life in danger to report the news? Well, after that story runs, Detroit Public Schools goes in to those schools and takes out the surplus furniture and sells it and makes money for the school district and takes all of those abandoned books and gives them to the students in the open schools, the students who need the books. So now I'm like, yes, this is why I do this. I got a little taste of impact. This is why I do this. Kids got books now. But the more you do this, the higher you go, the more danger you're going to face. It's 2012. My phone rings again. And you have to answer because when you don't do the stories people want you to do, you are a sellout. You know that, right? So, Chastity, it's Casey Wilborn, principal at Denby High. I'm like, hi, Casey, what's going on? Well, there are abandoned, vacant, burnt out buildings all around my school. Half the street lights don't work. How is the state going to tell me I got to get the test scores up and kids can't even get to school safely? I'm like, hey, you got a point. Okay. So I go down to the school and I meet with some of the kids. I say, hey, I want to walk to school with you. What's going on? I want to see what's going on. And so one of the young ladies who allows me to walk to school with her is Chantanique. Now, Chantanique is about 5'2", 17, baby face, grown woman body. And when her mom works nights, she has to walk to school to Denby by herself in the dark, 1.2 miles. And so I go and watch her walk to school, observe her. I'm just observing. And I tell you, one thing living in Brightmoor taught me is when you walking in the hood in the dark, you keep your head on a swivel. I'm like, I'm scared. Because, I mean, there's no light and there's abandoned houses everywhere. And I'm thinking to myself, whoa, this is the 48205 area code. At the time, they had the most murders of any place in the city, and there had been a serial rapist on the loose who was taking girls just like Chantanique and dragging them into these abandoned buildings and raping them. And I'm thinking to myself, how can anybody think our kids don't want to be educated because this girl was facing all of that, and she had that uniform on, and she was trucking. She was going to school. And so when she's walking, I started counting the buildings, the vacants. Not even all of them, just the ones that were close enough to her path where somebody could have jumped out and grabbed her. I started counting them on that 1.2-mile trek, and she passed 87. Just in her path. And each one of them looked like a threat to me because, while we're walking, I'm seeing my own shadow looking around like, at one point, a little hood bunny rabbit scurried out the bushes, scared the hell out of me and her. I'm like, again, that question is in my mind. Chas, why are you putting yourself in danger to report the news? When that story runs, we call it danger zone because of everything that Chantanique faced that day. And the next day, it's all over the TV news and everything, and there's this young man named Bill Pulte from the Pulte house building family, and he's so outraged, he starts an organization called the Detroit Blight Authority, and it goes on to demolish hundreds of vacant and dangerous homes around schools. And I was like, hey! This is why we do this, right? And in months after that, the city of Detroit gets what? $200 million in federal grants to demolish vacant properties in the city of Detroit. This is why we do this, to impact neighborhoods and possibly even save lives. But still, that question is like, how much danger is it worth? Okay, well, fast forward to that Mexico trip, right? In 2017, I was deployed to Mexico with the Detroit Public Television to find Maria. Maria had been brought to America at 8 months old. She'd lived her whole life in America, didn't know anything about Mexico. But during the Trump era deportations, she was deported from Detroit away from her American-born husband who had cancer and her infant son and sent to Mexico. So Detroit Public Television and I go to find her. And we find Maria in the butt crack of Mexico. I mean, this was Save the Children poverty. We find her, we interview her, and we're in the rental car in Mexico, taking her back to her house. And on this 2-lane highway, we see on the side of the road a dead body. Now, most people would say, okay, keep going. But we are the news, so we jump out. We're gonna report on this. What's going on? First thing I noticed, other than the dead body, was that the police had ski masks on their faces because this was drug cartel territory. And even the police were afraid of the drug cartel that had apparently killed that person and left them on the side of the road. So I'm like, ooh, if the police scared, this little girl from right moment be scared. So I'm like, it's getting dark, y'all. Whoop, time to go. And then we're packing up to leave because it's getting dark and we're in the middle of nowhere in Mexico. And the interpreter, who's our guide and our driver, says, I can't find the car key. I'm like, what you talking about, Willis? We cannot call AAA. We better find this. It's getting dark. What are we gonna do? The police don't care about us. So we are literally in the field near the dead bodies, body's still there, looking for the key. This is high grass, low grass, Mexican grass. All I'm thinking is I don't want to see no Mexican rodents or Mexican snakes. I give up. I give up. And I close my eyes and I start praying. Dear God, I know I have done numerous dumb things on assignments, put my life in danger plenty of times. But could you please get us out of this? We're in Mexico, so I'm like, Dios mío, por favor, Jesus, ayúdame. Oh, and I open my eyes. All I see is that the sky is getting darker. And out the corner of my eye, I see my interpreter coming towards me, holding the key in his hand. Hallelujah. Hallelujah, let's go. We get in that car, we drop Maria off, and we are out of there. We are headed to Mexico City to find more deportees, where there had just been an earthquake and there were aftershocks going on. Hey, the story goes on. Got to get the news. We would eventually do stories making Maria one of the faces of deportation in Detroit. And I remember, again, getting home and being in the airport and walking down the halls, and in my mind, all I'm thinking about is that dead body that I saw, and those children barefoot running through the slums. And I look up and I see the president on a TV screen welcoming me home by calling me Dia fake news. Was that mudslide I almost died in? Was that fake news? Was the World Trade Center fake news? It was Mexico fake news? First off, fake news is a fake term. Repeat after me. Either it's fake or it's news. It cannot be both, people. That's propaganda. This whole fake news frenzy, I mean, they want the media to stop reporting the news. Hey, you see something in the New York Times you don't like, fake news. You see something you don't like on Channel 4, fake news. You see something you just don't like, it's fake news. Not only is that asinine, but it's dangerous. It's dangerous because a congressional candidate body slammed Ben Jacobs, reporter for The Guardian, amid this whole fake news frenzy. And when I saw that, I'm thinking to myself, I got sisters, brothers, cousins, uncles from Brighton to Algonquin on the east side. Wish you would body slam Chastity. What? No, but for real, it's dangerous. This fake news frenzy. Jamal Khashoggi, columnist for the Washington Post, was decapitated. Where is the outrage, people? Jared Ramos was only a thorn in the side of the employees at the Capitol Gazette in Maryland. For years, he would write mean letters and just make calls and poison pen letters and all that. But amid this fake news frenzy, he gets up the nerve to get a shotgun, go to the Capitol Gazette newsroom in Maryland, and shoot it up and kill five people in the newsroom. Some people will say, oh, it's not the fake news frenzy. Well, it's a hell of a coincidence. And really, they want the media to quit reporting the news. And speaking for me, sometimes it makes me want to quit. I know, a couple months ago, I wrote about Black history, okay? Wrote about Black history, Black history. And, they took to Twitter, they took to Facebook, they took to, commenting on my story. They called me a liar, they called me a racist, they called me fake news. Dozens and dozens of people did this. And I was reading those comments and I'm thinking to myself, which one of these people is crazy enough to come for me? Was one of these people who's calling me fake news gonna try me in public? That makes you feel like, well, maybe I need to go and get me a cushy little PR job. I take risks, but I ain't trying to die for this. Really, when all those people went off on me about an article about Black History Month, I asked myself again, Chaz, why are you putting yourself in danger to report the news? And this time, the voice came to me. The answer came to me in the voice of the Most High Prophet, Cardi B. He said, I ain't never been a fraud in my MF life. Be careful with me. Oh, When those people came for me in that article, I said, I'm doubling down. I'm doing more TV. I'm doing more radio. I'm working on a documentary right now. Got a PBS series that's running on PBS. I'm going to help Bridge to hire and train more reporters so that we can do more stories on education, more story on housing, more stories on foreclosures, more stories on water shutoffs, more stories on gentrification and corruption. I am not fake news. I am doubling down. Danger or no danger.